Keep your dreams alive. Understand to achieve anything requires faith and belief in yourself, vision, hard work, determination, and dedication. Remember, all things are possible for those who believe.
I think the addressable market is so big. If we're fighting about who has what percentage of the market today, you've totally lost the plot. And the market is going to be huge. We need to keep growing the whole market. If Circle wins a little bit more or Ripple wins a little bit more, we both can win a lot. The addressable market is so big. The addressable market is so big.
Brad is telling you something that's important. We're talking about quadrillions of dollars migrating from the bank's balance sheets to trustless ledgers. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and the technology is proving itself right in front of everyone. There used to be this negative connotation with crypto, but it's being accepted by the vast majority of people.
We're expanding our product suite. We did one acquisition we've closed of a Swiss-based company called Medico, doing institutional infrastructure for the custody of digital assets. They have a bunch of tier one banks as customers. Just within the last week or two, we announced the intent to acquire another custody company called Fortress Trust.
Yeah, you bailed out a Bitcoin company.
It's funny how we take bullets from people. And it's like, we're making people whole that might have lost some funds. And then they're like, well, we're going to move our funds. You're like, okay, whatever. Don't care. But look, I think Ripple has continued to focus on what's the problem we're solving, who's the customer, and let all the noise and all those things play out as it will.
Now, you've probably seen the news that PolySign is being dissolved. Well, this makes perfect sense to me. Listen to what Brad said. He bought Medico, they bought Fortress Trust. Why would they need PolySign if they have Medico that has tier one banks signed as clients and Fortress Trust that has tier one banks signed? PolySign has technology that Medico can use, that Fortress Trust can use. Now that Ripple is the owner of both of these companies, they can buy the IP from PolySign.
Interesting. We got a little bit religious on how we thought about these systems. And in reality, they're all communities. They're store of value that communities seem to care about. Like I was skeptical that XRP would have lasting power because Ripple, the company, owns 60% of them, now 55 or 50%. And I was like, that just doesn't seem a proposition that's going to work. And I've been dead wrong. Hats off to Brad Garlinghouse and his team. Ripple is now, a institution. The XRP army is real. They care about their ecosystem and their coin. And, yes, it's got a use case, but broadly the use case is the same as Bitcoin. It's another place for people to want to store value. And
Mike Novogratz has been in the crypto industry since the very beginning. He's very wealthy, he owns Ripple stocks, he knows exactly what's happening on the back end, and now you see him do a complete 180, from taunting the XRP community to patting us on the back. So what exactly is Mike Novogratz up to? Does he have a position in XRP? Does he have some inside knowledge about Ripple and XRP? What is actually going on with Mike Novogratz? If he had a position, he's talking his books, and he brokered a deal between Bitstamp and Ripple.
See, and you're a good faith actor. I mean, you realize that when Gary goes, you're just not going to be able to fix the damage that he has done to this organization. He's done real institutional and fundamental damage to the credibility of this commission.
Stu Alderoty, as well as Brad Garlinghouse, are on stage basically berating and mocking Gary Gensler. So this tells you everything that you need to know about the case and where they are with the case. VPNs allow access to sites that may not be available to users from certain regions. NordVPN is a sponsor of this show and helps make this possible. I recently became a Palau citizen, and I am now able to KYC at exchanges like KuCoin, Gate.io, and MEXC. None of the larger exchanges, just the smaller ones. When I first logged into these exchanges, I was automatically geo-blocked for having a US IP address. That's why I used NordVPN's dedicated VPN service and picked an area in the Pacific. The exchanges allowed me to complete my KYC process with Nord turned on. VPNs are very useful to access restricted content and to enhance security, especially when it comes to financial data. If you use my link nordvpn.com/Darren, you will get an exclusive deal that is risk-free with a 30-day money-back guarantee. VPNs are an essential tool, and with my link, you can get 4 extra months for free on a 2-year plan. So nordvpn.com/Darren.
Is that under this administration, there's real institutional and reputational damage being done to the Securities and Exchange Commission. And there's a lot of good faith actors that work in the SEC. There's a lot of, full-time employees, not political appointees. But when Gary goes, the damage that he has done to this organization is going to last for years and years. And I think we've given permission not only to our industry, but to TradFi that they can challenge the SEC.
Ripple has done the whole industry a huge favor. This is now written in law that Ripple has won the case. So when another coin gets sued, they can refer to the Ripple case and how the judge ruled. This is now part of the law. It has also given confidence to traditional finance. Right now, there's a bunch of ESG disclosures, collateral requirements, all these different rules and regulations that shouldn't be there. They can now be challenged by any participant that has the funds to fight back. And there's plenty of traditional finance companies out there that have the funds to fight back. So it proves that the SEC is not immune to the law.
Obviously, the commission and the staff of the commission is still hard at work on a number of issues. One of them dealing with a number of filings of spot Bitcoin ETFs. Mr. Chair, I have to ask you this question. There has been a lot.
Suspected we did something very significant about the $26 trillion treasury market, which is really the base of our entire capital markets. It's how we fund our government. It's how our Federal Reserve does monetary policy. It's how we maintain the dollar dominance around the globe. And you want to ask me about crypto?
Gensler is now changing the talking points back to the Treasury. Turns out a broker-dealer had a hack, and this was a huge cybersecurity concern. So if they had protocols like XRP and ICP, these different broker-dealers would be much more secure, but they've been hacked. And Gary Gensler is switching the talking point from crypto assets back to the treasury markets, which he is right. This underpins the entire financial system. And there's trouble brewing.
Share, in New York City for my entire career until I joined Ripple. The way I was raised and the way I was taught is you don't fight the regulator. And the regulator is going to push hard. The regulator is going to use all the leverage that they can. They'll take it right up to the line, but they won't cross the line. With this administration, they've crossed the line. Everything that Brad talked about earlier, no faithful allegiance to the law, acting arbitrarily and capriciously. And we have the legal precedent that we created, which is very important for other litigants who are facing the SEC in this space. But from a policy perspective, what we're starting to hear now is the recognition from policy, from congressmen and senators, that the SEC is not infallible. That when Gary Gensler spews his talking points, that they can now question them because he's lost. And you may not see that at the top. Maybe you see that some of the hearings, some of the, you'll see some of the senators sitting hard. But behind the scenes, it's like, Gary, what you've been telling us for the past 2.5, 3 years, it doesn't appear to be true. And there's a huge value to that.
The regulators are crossing the line. This is unheard of unless you think of corrupt governments. And we like to think that our system is perfect and checks and balances take place, but the reality is our country is rotting from the core. These 3-letter agencies are in charge of enforcing the law, but who is overseeing them? Nobody's overseeing them. This is where they like to bend and break laws. And we've seen this before. We've seen this with the Snowden revelation. The NSA was caught breaking the law and then lying to Congress. The SEC is doing something similar to keep hold of crypto. And that just tells you how important crypto is.
Both Davidson and Emmer claim that under Gensler's leadership, the SEC has become politicized. And both also take issue with the current SEC lawsuit against crypto currency giant Binance. Joining us now, Ohio Congressman Warren Davidson, representing the great Miami County. Congressman Davidson, thank you for joining us. What is your biggest beef with SEC Chair Gary Gensler?
Well, it's a long list. He's been so bad at his job. I mean, frankly, what he's highlighted is we don't just have a Gary Gensler problem. We have a problem that's structural with the SEC. So part of it is Gary Gensler's been uniquely bad. There's been more rulemakings under his leadership than at any time since Dodd-Frank passed. Dodd-Frank was a major overhaul of the financial regulatory framework. So you would expect lots of rulemaking. All that happened with Gary Gensler is Gary Gensler became chair of the SEC. They've averaged like 2 rulemakings a month. They normally don't even have a long comment period, so it's shortchanged. He clearly doesn't have the legal authority to implement an ESG rule to change the reporting and disclosure requirements for every publicly traded company, but he's forging ahead anyway. With respect to crypto regulation, it's like Hotel California. You can check in, but you can never leave. They go into endless discovery. Almost no one ever gets a no action letter after years and years of discovery. He's trying to overhaul the market structure for the equity markets. We have the best capital markets in the world, and he wants to fundamentally remake them in a way that basically says to retail investors, to protect you, we're going to keep you from participating in the market. That's not investor protection. That's investor exclusion.
I was in an X space with John Deaton as well as Cody Carbone. Cody Carbone is Digital Chamber of Commerce's lobbyist. And I was speaking about these politicians. They just are a bunch of hot air and there's no action. And John Deaton and I convinced Cody Carbone to start applying more pressure and asking the politicians to subpoena and do a little bit more than just speak about it. And he agreed. Politicians are applying pressure to Gary Gensler, and it's being picked up by mainstream media. Gary Gensler has also harmed other meme stock owners, as well as big corporations, as well as big stockholders. There's a long list of people that he's harmed.
Here's in the room. They use that information, then they're not.
That was before Stu was on your team.
That actually is true. Well, I interviewed him one of the days that I was meeting with the SEC. But anyway, that was a long time ago. You have to kind of go in with the assumption that they are not good actors, which is a really, really sad reality, because that's not how I went in. I'm kind of like, look, we have nothing to hide. We're being totally transparent about what we're doing. We have lots of meetings. It's like, I'm telling you what I'm doing for years, and then you sue me years later saying what I was doing was not okay when you didn't tell me that. It's just like that. The sad thing for me as a U.S. citizen is it erodes credibility and confidence in the system. Mm-hmm. They're supposed to be helping, to your point.
The regulator is no longer looking for the public interest. They're looking for the political interest. These are symptoms of a decaying empire. And just from when I was a kid till now, I've watched my country become more and more big government, larger government, interfering with every aspect of our lives.
Sophomore in college, she graduated from Culver Military Academy. I've got 2 sophomores and a senior at Culver Military Academy. I love my country. I stand for my flag. I do. But when the data begins to make somebody who was working in the Soviet Unions, in the USSR, when it makes somebody from that era blush because it's so obviously corrupted, you get concerned, because we are a country where there should be transparency in data and it shouldn't be glossed over. So there are some serious concerns right now with the data that we're seeing and with a lot of the fraud that's occurred. We could speak for a whole half hour about the employee retention credit. Let's just say that I'm happy that it's on pause right now, and I hope that the IRS ends up canceling it because it lined the pockets of high net worth people to begin with who were making fraudulent claims. But our government is just not in a good place right now, and it's not making policies that are going to safeguard the long-term health of the United States. And I hope that changes.
Civilizations rise and fall as any other organic life form. The birth, mature, reach apogee, stagnate, decline, and die. No civilization is immune from these simple facts. The rise and fall of empires are no different. Their empires may die, the civilization that constitutes them may endure for some time or metamorphose in its aftermath.
The Coinbase, there's been some early skirmishes with Coinbase. I mean, that judge is calling bullshit on the SEC. It's just like, wow.
An Obama appointed judge too, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, again, this isn't a D versus R thing. It's a broad recognition. Look, there's one thing that I would add to what Stu said. I was in Asia last week also, and I was asked by entrepreneurs privately, like, advice. How do you handle this? Do not assume they are a ethical actor.
While America then is an empire in decline, there is little reason to be concerned with the outright civilizational collapse. Instead, we are likely living through a period of civilization metamorphosis. Something new is going to emerge over the horizon. It will retain aspects of the past the oldie inherited, but it will be something new because of the pains and declinations we are currently living through. When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. Thanks, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please take a moment to like and subscribe. If you enjoy content like this, please consider joining my Patreon or my ghost site, dmjr.ghost.io.